My daughter-in-law sold my wedding ring, telling me, "It's just a useless old stone." She used the money to buy designer handbags and luxury clothes. I was crushed. That ring was the only piece of my husband I had left. But days later, a jeweler tracked me down with a certificate that revealed the truth. The ring wasn't worthless at all. It was worth millions. Before I tell you what happened next, please subscribe to my channel and share in the comments where you are watching from. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 72 years old, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Pennsylvania. I spend my mornings tending to my roses and my evenings reading in the same living room I shared with my husband Harold for over 50 years. Since his passing, the house has been lonelier, but one thing always kept me strong: my wedding ring. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a promise, a memory, and a reminder of the life we built together. My son David visits when he can, though his job keeps him busy. He means well, but he often leaves decisions to his wife Vanessa. Vanessa is younger, fashionable, and loves showing off her wealth, even when it comes at someone else's expense. My granddaughter Lily, only 12, is my joy. She loves to sit with me, hear family stories, and ask about the past. She is the only one who understands why that ring meant everything to me. To me, the ring was priceless. To Vanessa, it was just an old stone. I had no idea how far her greed would go, or how much it would change everything. It happened on a quiet afternoon, when I went to take out my wedding ring from the little velvet box I kept in my dresser. I like to wear it on special days, sometimes even just when I missed Harold more than usual. But when I opened the box, the ring was gone. My heart skipped a beat. I checked every drawer, every corner, even the pockets of my old coats. Nothing. I walked into the living room, where Vanessa was lounging on the couch, scrolling on her phone. "Vanessa, have you seen my wedding ring?" "It's not where I left it," I asked, my voice already shaking. She looked up with a smirk. "Oh, that old thing." "I sold it." "Honestly, Evelyn, it was just a useless stone. I used the money for something worthwhile." My knees nearly gave out. I gripped the edge of a chair and whispered, "You did what?" Vanessa shrugged, completely unbothered. "Don't look at me like that. It was collecting dust in a box. I turned it into something useful, a shopping spree. You should thank me. At least the money went to something fashionable." She lifted a shiny new handbag from the floor and held it up like a trophy. My chest burned with anger and grief. That ring was my life with Harold. It was never yours to touch, let alone sell. "How dare you?" She rolled her eyes. "Evelyn, it's just jewelry. Don't be so dramatic. Times change. You don't need to hang on to every little thing from the past." The cruelty of her words cut deeper than the act itself. That ring wasn't just jewelry. It was my husband kneeling before me 50 years ago. It was the vows we exchanged, the birthdays, the anniversaries, the quiet nights holding hands. To Vanessa, it was just a rock. To me, it was my heart. I waited until David got home, hoping he would stand up for me. When I told him, his face tightened, but he didn't raise his voice. He glanced at Vanessa, then back at me. "Mom, we'll figure it out," he muttered, almost as if he didn't want to upset her. "Figure it out?" I cried. "She sold my wedding ring. That was the only piece of your father I had left. And you're telling me to calm down?" Vanessa smirked again, pulling a pair of designer shoes out of a shopping bag. "See, at least I put it to good use. You should be happy your ring could buy something this beautiful." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. The room spun. My own son wouldn't stand up for me, and the woman he married had just stolen a piece of my soul. I went to my room, shut the door, and cried into Harold's old sweater. The next few days were unbearable. Vanessa paraded around the house in her new clothes, bragging to her friends about the deal she made. I overheard her on the phone laughing. It was just some outdated thing. I sold it for quick cash. Evelyn's so sentimental, she doesn't understand what's valuable anymore. Her words twisted in my chest. I wanted to scream that she was wrong, that some things are worth more than money, but I held it in. Each time I saw her flaunting another purchase, it felt like she was mocking me, daring me to challenge her. Even Lily noticed. One evening, she sat beside me quietly and asked, "Grandma, why aren't you wearing your ring anymore?" My throat tightened. I didn't want to break her little heart with the truth, but I couldn't lie. "Your mom sold it, sweetheart," I said softly. Her eyes widened. "But Grandma, you told me it was special. You said it was from great-grandma, and Grandpa gave it to you when you got married." Tears spilled down my cheeks. It was special. It still is, even if I don't have it right now. Lily hugged me tight, whispering, I'd never sell it. I'd keep it forever. Her words gave me a small flicker of hope in the middle of my despair. But at night, when the house grew quiet, I stared at the empty velvet box and felt broken. That ring was gone, sold to some stranger, and there was nothing I could do to bring it back. I thought the story had ended there, with loss, betrayal, and heartbreak. What I didn't know was that fate had other plans, and the truth about that ring would come back to me in a way none of us expected. A week passed, but the ache inside me didn't fade. Every time I opened my dresser and saw the empty spot where my wedding ring used to rest, it felt like someone had carved a hole in my chest. Vanessa's smugness only made it worse. She strutted around the house with her new handbags and designer shoes, reminding me with every glance that she had stolen the most precious part of my life. I was beginning to accept that the ring was gone forever when the phone rang one morning. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar. "Mrs. Carter? This is Mr. Harris from Harris & Sons Jewelers. I need to speak with you about a ring." My heart skipped. "A ring?" I asked cautiously. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "A woman sold me a vintage diamond ring recently, and as I examined it, I realized it wasn't an ordinary piece. I traced it back through an old appraisal certificate with your name on it. Could you come to the shop?" My breath caught in my throat. "Yes, of course. I'll be there today." I hung up, shaking so hard I had to sit down. Could it be possible? Could this nightmare have a crack of light in it? I didn't tell Vanessa or David. I slipped on my coat, grabbed my purse, and walked straight out the door. When I arrived at the jeweler's shop, Mr. Harris greeted me with a kind smile. He carried a small velvet box to the counter and opened it carefully. Inside, gleaming under the bright lights, was my wedding ring. I gasped and pressed a hand to my chest. "That's mine," I whispered. "My husband gave me that ring 50 years ago." Mr. Harris nodded. I believed it must have sentimental value. I couldn't ignore the history. "I also want you to see this." He handed me a thick envelope. Inside was an appraisal certificate, yellowed with age but clear as day. It listed the ring's origin, a rare vintage diamond, over a century old, originally cut in Europe. The value wasn't hundreds or even thousands. It was worth several $1,000,000. My knees nearly buckled. "Millions?" I breathed. "Yes," Mr. Harris said gently. "It's one of the rarest cuts we've ever seen. Whoever sold it had no idea what they had. I wanted to make sure you knew the truth before it went any further." Tears welled in my eyes. Relief, grief, and shock all hit me at once. For days I had mourned the loss of my ring as if it were Harold himself, only to learn that it was far more valuable than anyone had guessed. But the value wasn't just money. It was validation, proof that Vanessa's cruelty and ignorance couldn't erase what the ring truly meant. I thanked Mr. Harris over and over, clutching the box to my chest as if it were Harold's hand I was holding. "You don't know what this means to me," I told him. As I drove home, my mind raced. I thought of Harold, of the day he had slipped the ring on my finger with trembling hands, promising me a life full of love. I thought of my grandmother, who had passed it down, saying, "This ring carries the strength of our family." I thought of Vanessa mocking me, calling it useless. And now I had proof, not only of its monetary worth, but of its legacy. When I walked back into the house, Vanessa was sprawled on the couch with shopping bags around her. She looked up and frowned when she saw the little box in my hands. "What's that?" she asked. I didn't answer her, not yet. I wanted to wait for the right moment, with David and Lily present, so there could be no denial, no lies. I wanted them all to hear the truth at once. That night, as I sat in my bedroom with the ring back on my finger, I felt stronger than I had in years. The despair that had crushed me was gone. In its place was determination. Vanessa thought she had taken everything from me, but she had only revealed her own greed. I looked at Harold's picture on the nightstand and whispered, "We're not done yet. They'll know what this ring is worth, and they'll know what your love meant." For the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. The turning point had come. I was no longer the grieving widow, robbed of her treasure. I was a woman with the truth in her hands, ready to face the people who had doubted me and show them the value of what they had so carelessly thrown away. The night I decided to reveal the truth, I gathered my courage like armor. I had spent days holding the ring close, waiting for the right time. Vanessa thought she had buried me in silence, but now I had proof that her arrogance had backfired. I wanted everyone present, David, Vanessa, and little Lily, because this wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about truth, and about the legacy of my family. I invited them all to dinner. David seemed pleased, thinking it was a step toward peace after the tension that had been building. Vanessa, as usual, dressed to impress, wearing one of her new designer outfits. Lily bounced in with excitement, glad to see the table set, the way I used to when Harold was alive. We ate in silence at first, the clinking of silverware filling the air. My heart pounded, but I waited until everyone was done. Then I placed the velvet box on the table. Vanessa frowned immediately. "What's that?" I opened it slowly, letting the light catch the diamond as the ring sparkled more brilliantly than ever. "This," I said firmly, "is my wedding ring. The one you sold, Vanessa." Her eyes widened. She leaned back in her chair, her face pale. "That's impossible. I sold it. You can't—" I cut her off. "The jeweler who bought it traced it back to me. He returned it. Along with this, I laid the appraisal certificate beside the ring, sliding it across the table so they could all see." David leaned forward, his eyes scanning the paper. "Mom, this says the ring is worth millions." "Yes," I replied, keeping my gaze steady on Vanessa. "Millions. Not worthless. Not junk. Not some useless old stone, as you called it. This ring carries more value than you could ever imagine. Not just in money, but in history and love. My grandmother wore it. Harold gave it to me when we married. It was the symbol of our life together." Vanessa's lips trembled. I didn't know. I thought it was just old. I didn't mean—" I leaned closer, my voice sharp but steady. "You didn't mean? You sold something that wasn't yours. You mocked me for treasuring it. You paraded around this house with handbags and shoes, thinking you had turned my memories into your fashion. You didn't care what it meant to me. And now you see, you sold a ring worth more than anything in your closet, and you sold your dignity with it." The silence that followed was crushing. Vanessa's eyes darted from the ring to the certificate, her face flushing with shame. David sat frozen, struggling to speak. Finally, he turned to his wife. "Vanessa, what have you done?" His voice was low, full of disappointment I hadn't heard before. "I didn't know," she shouted, her voice breaking. "I thought it was worthless. I thought—" She stopped, tears welling in her eyes. But there was no sympathy left in me. Lily broke the silence. Her small voice carried more weight than anything. "Mom," she said softly, "Grandma told me that ring was special. She said it was from great-grandma and grandpa. You shouldn't have taken it." Vanessa's face crumbled. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. But I didn't move to comfort her. My heart ached, yes, but not for her. It ached for Harold, for the disrespect his memory had suffered. I turned to David. "This is your wife, but she disrespected your father, your family, and me. You may forgive her in time, but I will never forget what she did. This ring will never leave my hands again." David nodded slowly, shame in his eyes. "You're right, Mom. I should have stopped her. I failed you. I failed Dad." I picked up the ring and slid it back onto my finger, where it belonged. The weight of it grounded me, filled me with the strength of my family's love. I looked across the table at Vanessa, who was still trembling. "You wanted handbags. You wanted luxury. But what you threw away was something priceless. And you'll have to live with that for the rest of your life." The room was heavy with silence after that. Vanessa didn't argue, didn't smirk, didn't even look at me. She knew the truth had crushed her pride. As I cleared the table, I felt Harold's presence beside me, as if he was proud that I had stood my ground. I whispered quietly in my heart, "We did it." They know now that night, when I lay down to sleep, I felt no bitterness, only peace. The ring was back where it belonged, shining on my finger. Vanessa could never undo what she had done, but she could never erase the truth either. The climax wasn't just about revealing the value of the ring. It was about reclaiming my voice, my dignity, and the love Harold had left me. For the first time since he passed, I didn't feel like I had lost everything. I felt like I had won something, myself. The morning after that dinner, I woke up with the ring still on my finger. I had fallen asleep, clutching it, almost afraid that if I let go, it would vanish again. But when the sunlight hit the diamond, it sparkled with a brilliance that filled me with peace. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't haunted by anger or grief. I felt grounded. The ring wasn't just back, it was secure. As I made my tea in the kitchen, I noticed how quiet the house was. Vanessa stayed in her room most of the morning, avoiding me. David left for work without saying much, though the look on his face said more than words ever could. It was guilt, disappointment, and shame all at once. He knew he had failed to protect me from his wife's arrogance, and he knew the damage wouldn't be easily repaired. But the one who surprised me most was Lily. She came into the kitchen with her hair still messy from sleep and sat across from me. "Grandma," she said softly, "can I see the ring again?" I smiled and held out my hand. Her eyes widened with awe as she touched it gently. "It's so beautiful. I promise, when I'm older, I'll never treat it like Mom did. I'll keep it safe, forever." Tears filled my eyes as I kissed her forehead. "That's all I needed to hear, sweetheart. This ring will stay in our family, and one day it will be yours. But not just because it's valuable, because it carries love, history, and meaning." That moment with Lily healed something in me that Vanessa's betrayal had broken. I realized the ring's legacy didn't end with Harold and me. It would live on through the generations who respected it. The following weeks were awkward. Vanessa could barely look me in the eye. She didn't apologize, not in words, but her silence spoke volumes. She avoided showing off her shopping bags, and for once her pride seemed deflated. I didn't need an apology from her anymore. The guilt she carried was her punishment. David tried harder after that night. He called more often, sat with me in the evenings, and even helped me fix things around the house. I could see he wanted to mend what had been broken. I accepted his efforts because he was my son, and I knew he carried his own shame. But I also made it clear, never again would I allow anyone, even family, to strip me of what mattered most. I wore my wedding ring every single day after that, not locked away in a drawer, not hidden for special occasions, but proudly on my hand. Every time the light hit it, I felt Harold with me. His love hadn't left. It had been there all along, waiting for me to fight for it. One afternoon I went back to the jeweler's shop to thank Mr. Harris again. He smiled when he saw me and said, "Mrs. Carter, you should know, pieces like this don't just carry value in diamonds. They carry stories. And yours is one of the most powerful I've heard." His words stayed with me. The real treasure wasn't the millions the certificate claimed. It was the story of endurance, of love stronger than greed, of a widow who refused to be erased. I learned something important through this ordeal. People will always chase shiny new things, but real worth isn't measured in money. It's measured in loyalty, respect, and love. Vanessa saw only a stone, but I saw 50 years of devotion, of laughter and tears, of holding Harold's hand until his last breath. That kind of value can't be sold, no matter how hard someone tries. Vanessa never forgave herself completely. Every time she glanced at the ring, I could see the regret flash in her eyes. She could never take back what she had done, and she knew it. But for me, that wasn't my burden to carry anymore. My burden had been lifted the day the truth came back into my hands. Today, when I sit on the porch with Lily beside me, I tell her stories about her grandfather, how he proposed under the oak tree, how he worked hard every day to provide for us, how he never let me forget that I was loved. She listens with wide eyes, her fingers often reaching for the ring on my hand, and I know, deep in my heart, that the legacy of love will live on through her. I don't wear the ring because it's worth millions. I wear it because it's priceless. If my story touched your heart, please subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I would love to hear what family treasures mean the most to you.